Thank you, Zimbabwe, for tuning in to yet another informative edition of your program. This is Agricultural New Directions, Agribusiness, in support of Vision 2030, and my name is Wadzanai Manyore. So this is a platform which was specifically created for our farming community here in Zimbabwe. This is where we discuss everything agriculture. We look at it from a perspective of production economics, business finance, time value of money, and even those strategies and tactics you can employ so that you are successful in your cropping venture. In this very episode today, we are coming to you from Shamva, where we are looking at potato production during the summer cropping season right here in Zimbabwe. Stay tuned. At this point in time, I have taken the liberty of inviting Elizabeth Mukojo Msimi. Liz, thank you so much for joining us today. I understand that you are a seasoned agronomist working with different farmers here in Zimbabwe. Some are into potato production and other field crops, but today we want to look at table potato production. As we get into this discussion, Liz, I would want you to highlight on effective land preparation, that which supports commercial table potato production.
Thank you, Wadzanai, for that question. I think it's very critical. It's one of the things that we encourage our farmers to actually go out there and make sure it's done right. Because, you know, your potatoes are very poor feeders. They've got a very shallow root system. So you want to ensure that the land is well prepared. You want to ensure that you come in with a reaper. If there's a hard pan, if there's a hard pan, you need to come in with a reaper. And then you make sure that there's a fine tilth to ensure that by the time you come in to plant, your crop has got that contact, that seed to land contact, to make sure that when the crop is coming up, there is sufficient contact, and there's also enough roots to actually take up the nutrients that you have to then apply throughout the growing season. So we emphasize land prep. It's very, very important to ensure that you've got a land with a good fine tilth to ensure that when you're coming in with the crop, it then can establish properly.
Thank you so much, Liz, for that. As we move right along, I'd also want us to talk about issues surrounding days to maturity. But before we talk of that, I want you to enlighten our audience there at home in terms of the plant population for seed potato, for table potato per hectare. I understand that these two have a correlation. If you look at yield per hectare, it is directly related to maybe how you would have planted your potatoes in terms of numbers. What are we looking at per hectare in terms of maybe the seed and also the yield that you'll be expecting as a farmer?
Definitely. So the first thing is the variety. Different varieties have got a different count per 25 kgs. You find that the bigger the potato seed, the one that you're going to plant, the lower the count, and the smaller it is, the higher the count. And it depends on what your particular market is looking for in terms of the end product. Do they want very large potatoes? Do they want medium size? Do they want fairly small potatoes? So it's the variety that you choose at the beginning of the season that is actually going to determine how it's going to look at the end. So it's important for a farmer to know that first, select their market, and then select the variety. In terms of population, it depends now in terms of, like I just said, in terms of what the market is looking for. Okay. But it ranges from anything 30,000 to 40,000 plants. And the higher the population, the higher the fertilization as well. You need to come in with the nutrients to ensure that the crop gets to the yield that you're looking for, because it doesn't really help to come in with a higher population and then you don't fertilize to reach the yield that you're looking for.
Now, Liz, you'd find that in 2023 we are producing our crops under severe drought conditions that are induced by the El Nino effects we are experiencing as a country. Can you talk to us in terms of water application in potato production? Generally, most of our farmers, when it comes to the summer cropping season, they will be maybe targeting the rainfall. They will be aiming at the rainfall, but it will rain, and it also help us when it comes to irrigation. Talk to us in terms of water application, the effective mode of irrigation in commercial potato production. We have various modes of irrigation, but that one that is efficient and effective, and also maybe the millimeters expected per day or per week or per given period.
I will say that most of the commercial farmers that I've worked with are actually using pivots. So they come in with overhead irrigation using their pivots. And we are in Shava today, like you said initially, that the temperatures are quite high, and so you find that there is need to apply a bit more water as compared to the norm, where you find that farmers will apply anything around 5 to 6 millimeters a day in a normal time, but you'll find that here they're applying about 10 millimeters a day just to be able to cater for that extra the extra heat units that you're going to get in a place like Shamva. So it's important for a farmer to first understand where they are in Zimbabwe, in our ecological region, and then also to understand their soil type, because also the other thing that happens is if you've got sands, they will lose that water quickly, and then if that happens, then you have issues with not having enough water. Yes. And then if you've got a clay soil like the one we've got here, the water holding capacity is a bit higher, so you find that even if you apply water, there is less that's going to be lost quickly. So it's a combination of where you are and also what the soil type is. So you have to really understand that for you to then come up with an irrigation regime.
Okay, Liz, when we come back after the break, we are going to be touching, maybe taking a deeper dive in fertilizer application, or the types of fertilizers that are required to produce your potatoes commercially. But before we go on the break, I would like you to talk to our Zimbabwean farmers in terms of the importance of having soil tests and analysis when it comes to crop production. Because at times people would say, why would I need my soil to be tested? We all know that when producing potatoes, you need such a fertilizer. They might not understand the importance of soil testing and analysis. Take us through that.
Thank you very much for that question, Wazanai. This is probably my favorite question the whole time because I totally understand the importance of actually knowing what your soil has. And for potatoes, it's a no-no. If you do not test your soil, do not even bother going into potato production, because potatoes need a lot of nutrients. There's a lot of balances that you need to make sure are right in your soil. We are going to talk about the fertilizers just now, and you'll see that it's a lot of money that goes into the potato production as a fertilizer. So you need to ensure that whatever it is that you're applying, that is what you actually require to ensure that you get to the yield that you're looking for. So if you're not going to do a soil test in potatoes, I can say please don't even bother trying.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Liz. That was very detailed. On that note, viewers, we've come to the end of the first segment. We're going to go on a short commercial break. We'll be right back with this and more in the second segment. Stay tuned. Thank you, Zimbabwe, for staying tuned to Agricultural New Directions, Agribusiness, in support of Vision 2030. Now, today we are coming to you from Shamba, and we are looking at table potato production. We are here where a farmer established well over 20 hectares of his potatoes. Now, viewers, we encourage you to be a part of these conversations. Feel free to get in touch with me, the producer, Wazanai Manyore, on 0772-807-506. Alternatively, you can like our Facebook page, Agribusiness with Wazanai. Make a follow-up on this episode and more on our YouTube channel, Agribusiness with Wazanai. We are also now available on Twitter, on X, formerly known as Twitter. It's at Agribusiness 110. This is where most of these discussions do take place. Now, earlier on, before into the break, Liz here was telling us of the importance of soil testing and soil analysis when it comes to our table potato production. Liz, we are in the second segment. Welcome back.
Thank you, Wazanai.
Now, I want us to talk about fertilizer application in table potato production. Those nutrients that are essential, be it macro, be it micro, and the types of fertilizers that you would recommend to our Zimbabwean farmers who are producing potatoes. Okay, so at the beginning, the most important thing is to ensure your phosphate is enough. So our base of fertilizers, you find that most of the potato base of fertilizers have got a high phosphate level, to ensure that that phosphorus is applied right at the beginning, because it's also very difficult to come in with the phosphorus later on. You want to ensure that the phosphorus is applied right at the beginning. There are things like calcium. Our farmers will come in with gypsum, depending on what the soil test would have told us. They'll come in with 300 to 500 to 700 kgs per hectare of gypsum. And then normally we do not encourage liming just before we plant, because at times we have problems with potato scab. But there are other ways, but we need to have an agronomist look at the program and then recommend accordingly. We have got a number of base of fertilizers. The most popular that I've noticed in the past 2 years is 924-20. That's the NPK. And like we always say, if it's at about
bulk of fertilizer is probably a potato fertilizer as well. A 628-23 is also a very good fertilizer for potatoes. So depending on what your phosphate reading is, we then come in with that. At times, if your phosphate is really low, we'll come in with MAP. Why am I emphasizing on the phosphate, Wazanai? You know what? When you want to establish the maximum number of tubers, your phosphate actually determines the number of tubers you get. So it's right at the beginning where you then determine the yield that you get. You can't really exercise the crop into giving you a higher yield later on. You need to get it right in the beginning. And then we also talk of top dressing fertilizers. So we've got a wide range of options. We've got your super tops, which come in depending on week 3 to week 6. We've got your calcium nitrate, potassium nitrate, sulfate of potash. Those are the 4 mainly popular fertilizers that are used in Zimbabwe for potato production. But it really, I know that there is some prescription blends that can actually be made for a farmer if they've done their soil test, if we've seen
you can give them a program.
You can give them a program that works for their particular farm, and then that way they can, they are rest assured that they're going to get the yield they're looking for.
Okay. Now, Liz, generally Zimbabwean farmers have got an obsession of late with foliar fertilizers. Some are even thinking of replacing our traditional granular fertilizer with foliar fertilizers. I would want you to talk to our audience there at home and demystify the misconceptions at times which come by saying, you know what, if I just apply my foliar fertilizer, I do not need that granular fertilizer. And also still on that, this year there's been much talk of liquid lime. Is it liquid lime? Yes. Some people have been talking about it. So I just want you to enlighten our farming community in terms of the foliar fertilizers or even the supplements that a farmer can take advantage of in producing their potatoes.
Now, the basal fertilizer we're talking about, you need about 1.5 tons to 1 to 2 tons even per hectare. I would want someone to explain to me how you can do that with a foliar fertilizer.
With a 5-liter bottle.
Because the nutrients that you need to get into a potato crop for it to give you a 50, 60, 70 ton yield is high in terms of the NPKs. Okay, we come in with foliar fertilizers, and then there are a number of foliar fertilizers that are available. So it's all trace elements that are coming in, and then some have got hormones and some have got amino acids which help boost the crop. If there's any stress, especially in this heat, you need that as well. And then I can talk about the liquid fertilizers. There are some that have come into the market this year, and you find that those, like I said earlier, we don't want to encourage liming early on because there's a problem with potato scab. But the other reason why that is a problem, there's also high carbonates, and the carbonates are the ones that then trigger the disease. So what we try and do now is to come in with a micronized, high technology. You come in with the liquid, and the liquid reacts quickly, and there's no build up of carbonates, and then that then becomes your solution if you've got a low pH. So yes, there are solutions this year to be able to get you the yield that you want and to be able to correct your pH before you actually start your potato farming. But you need an agronomist to tell you that.
Thank you so much, Liz, for this demystify these misconceptions that are in our farming community. Now, I want us to talk of general crop protection. I do understand that if your crop is well fed, it can tolerate or withstand diseases. That is, if it's well fed, there are diseases it can fight off itself without even you coming with a chemical. Some insect pests cannot even chew on the leaves if your crop is well fed. I want us to talk about general chemicals that we use in potato production, looking at maybe the insect pests and diseases that are a menace in our potato production. You would find that generally most of our Zimbabwean farmers end up having a love-hate relationship with potato production because it's chilling much and the entire field can be infested within days. Talk to us in terms of general crop protection, the chemicals that you use, the various techniques that you employ to ensure that your field is clean, you are producing a healthy potato.
So, this is actually referred to as the Irish potato because there was a blight. And Ireland felt it because the blight took out all the potatoes. And in Ireland, they use potatoes a lot.
Yes.
So one of the major diseases that potatoes will have is blight. So there's early blight, there's late blight. There are a number of crop protection products that are in the market at the moment that you can apply. But what I do encourage our farmers to do is to scout a lot and also ensure that you are applying your fungicides every week. So you'll find that we just said we're applying 10 mils here. If we do not come in with your fungicide application every week, you definitely have disease incidence. And then I like that you said fertilizers. If you're coming in with your potassium, especially potassium, if your potassium is sufficient, it gives the crop a fighting chance. It gives the crop that ability to fight off diseases and even pests as well. So then you'll find that your budget is also lower because now you're putting enough fertilizer. And then when it comes to crop protection, you don't have to put as much in terms of fungicides, insecticides, and all that. And then in terms of herbicides, there are a number of herbicides. One of them for grasses is fusilate. It's a very fluorocyanate, it's a very good grass killer in potatoes. So you find that you just need to ensure that your program is exactly in line with what your variety is. What I also encourage farmers to do is to talk to the owner of the variety, whoever is giving you the variety, whichever company it is, and ask them what are the problems that what is it susceptible to, what is it that, what are the challenges that I should look out for. That way your crop protection product is prepared for that particular problem.
Okay, thank you so much, Liz. And I want that you alert the fact of talking to the provider of the seed, which leads us to the next question that I'm going to be asking in the third and final segment of getting your seed from reputable sources. At times, you might end up coming with a robust fertilizer program, with a robust crop protection program, but seed maybe 8th generation.
That's very true.
So at times, you might find that farmers end up losing into their or having profits are being eaten into because vakatora seed yawo kusiri reputable. Thank you so much for that. On that note, viewers, we've come to the end of the second segment. We're going to go on a short commercial break. We'll be right back with this and more in the third and final segment. Stay tuned. Thank you, Zimbabwe, for staying tuned to Agricultural New Directions, Agribusiness, in support of Vision 2030. Today, I am joined by Elizabeth Liz. She's going to be talking to us in terms of table potato production. Like I highlighted earlier, today we are here in Shamba, where a farmer managed to establish a 20-hectare crop of table potato. Before we went to the break, Liz here was talking to us in terms of getting your seed and also having a discussion with your provider in terms of maybe him telling you or analyzing some of the dangers or some of the pros and cons that come with acquiring or establishing that seed within your field. Liz, we are here in the third and final segment. Welcome back.
Thank you, Azanai.
Now, Liz, you would find that generally in Zimbabwe, farmers might end up wanting to cut corners. At times they get their seed from Bari. I'm not saying Bari is bad, but I'm just saying they might get their seed from Bari or just get their seed from me. I can just say I'm selling seed, and because it's cheap, someone ends up purchasing that seed. Talk to our audience there at home in terms of acquiring their seed from reputable sources, the advantages that come with it, because I know that you are a fertilizer specialist and agronomist who focuses more on crop nutrition. Ugompa fertilizer but talk to us in terms of that.
So you know what happens is, like you rightfully said, people want to cut corners, and at the end of the day, cutting corners will also just get you to the end and you don't have anything to show for it. So it's really a real problem. Depot a very good program, and then I sit down, I take my time, I draft a good program for them. But then they go around and you even tell them the options that are in the market. Go and get this and this and that variety. But because they want to save money, because it's a lot of seed that goes into a hectare of potatoes, they'll then go out and then get it from their neighbor who has grown a crop before and they were hit by a disease, and the disease is in the seed and the seed is not going to perform, and now my fertilizer is not performing. But it's got nothing to do with me. So it's really important for a farmer to go and get their seed from reputable houses. I think right now this year there are even retailers that have gone into the market because it was also a challenge. You find that the small scaler can't get access to good quality seed. But there are retailers this year who have gone out and they're now selling high quality seed direct to the small scale farmers. So even if you don't want to do 20 hectares like here, you can do a hectare, you can do 500 square meters, you can do 5,000 square meters using good quality seed, and you can still see the results and be able to make money out of it, because it's really, really, really important.
Now, Liz, generally there is a relationship between especially your ammonium nitrate application and the shelf life of a fruit or a tuber, be it carrots, be it the drying of onions. In this case, we are talking of potatoes. Talk to us in terms of proper and responsible application of ammonium nitrate, ensuring that when it comes to storage and sending off your product to the market, it will get there in good condition, still looking attractive, and can be also stored by the end user. Because when a person purchases maybe a 10-kilogram pocket of potatoes, sometimes they want to store them and cook them gradually or stagger them. So now talk to us in terms of ammonium, responsible application of fertilizer, and the relationship that is there with storage of the product.
So the varieties that we've been talking about have got different caps in terms of days to maturity, and that comes with a nitrogen requirement. So if you've got a shorter season variety, chances are there's a lesser nitrogen requirement. If you've got a longer season variety, chances are there's a higher nitrogen requirement. So you need to then come in, know your varieties, the first thing, and then you go in and say, how much nitrogen am I applying? Like you rightfully said, people like nitrogen. They like AN, like you just said, because it makes it look green. Exactly. So then when I'm taking my Facebook pictures and Instagram pictures, it looks nice and lovely, and everyone thinks I'm a very good farmer. But at the end, they will never tell us the story of what yield they got, because the green looking and lush looking crop is not always the best in terms of the yield. So if you apply too much nitrogen, there's a lot of rank growth that happens, and then you find that it sacrifices setting of the tubers, and then now you're promoting vegetative growth at the expense of your tuber yield. And at the end of the season, you'll find that your yield is lower just because you've applied too much nitrogen.
These leaves have no use.
They have no use.
Yes,
we need them. You need them to be able to they are the factories. They are where we cook
our. You can't send them to the market.
Exactly. we are trying to send the potato, the tuber, to the market. So we need to ensure that the tuber is the one that actually is at the highest at the end of the season. So it's very important. I can also emphasize on the importance of calcium in potato farming, because you find that nice skin finish. You find I spoke of gypsum initially, and then we spoke of calcium nitrate. You need to ensure that your calcium is sufficient, because that skin texture and that quality, it's also coming in from the calcium fertilization. So it's important every nutrient comes in to play a role to be able to get the potato that will last the time in the mother's shelf. When she's good cooking, she's probably going to cook it over 2 months, like you rightfully said, and she doesn't want half of it to rot just because the farmer didn't do due diligence to actually making sure that they're fertilizing the crop correctly.
Finally, as we round off, Liz, I want us to talk about market expectations. As farmers, as an agronomist, we do produce our crops. It looks beautiful, but at the same time, the market has its own expectation. The market has its own requirements. Can you maybe talk to our growers in terms of them producing potatoes in line with what the market wants, in line with what Maiwa Zanai wants, can become my potatoes are for her family? Because at the end of the day, some farmers end up maybe missing the mark. Zvakanaka kumunda, but akunotengesa his potatoes are not what is wanted or required by the market. Finally, in a snippet, market expectations and production by the farmer.
So it also starts with the variety as well. So you need to select the variety based on where you're going to send it to. The flesh of the potato has got a different market. The size of the potato has got a different market. So you need to know exactly where you're going to end up. Mbare will take everything, but you know what Mbare will do? If there's too much of stuff, it will give you the price they want, not the price that you want. So you need to always plan well ahead if you're going to have a profitable potato production enterprise. So you need to ensure you know where you're going to go, select the variety for the end market.
Thank you so much, Liz. It was a pleasure having you with us today, educating our Zimbabwean farmers in terms of potato production. It can be a very lucrative venture, and most farmers are interested because with potatoes you can never go wrong. US dollars. Potatoes maybe other currencies. It's all about US dollars, and you get paid in cash. That was very detailed, and I would want to thank you for coming onto our platform.
Thank you for having me.
There you had it, viewers. Today we're in Shamva looking at potato production here in Zimbabwe. From me, your host was Zanai Manyore. I'm also on Instagram. It's a W Manyore, and the crew behind the scenes. Have yourselves a fabulous evening. Thank you for watching.